Welcome back to the Daily Dunk Shop, brought to you by Cadillac of New Orleans. Well, time once again for the Fearless Friday forecast. Coming off of a losing week, 2-4 last week, not good for me. My first losing weekend in a long time, so time to get back on the right track. And I feel really good about this weekend's picks. So let's dive right in to the schedule, where I will be tomorrow night on Saturday down at Tiger Stadium. LSU Tigers playing host to the Arkansas Razorbacks, trying to rebound from last week's disappointing performance at Alabama. And of course, LSU is 7.5-point favorite against Arkansas. This is a revenge game for the Tigers. We all remember what happened last year when LSU went up to Arkansas and lost 17-0, a very ugly performance. And you know that Les Miles and his coaching staff have let the LSU Tigers know. It probably showed that game film a few times this week in preparation. I like the Tigers to bounce back. Arkansas is a very difficult team to read. You don't want to play them in overtime, I can tell you that. They've beaten Auburn and Ole Miss in that crazy game last week in overtime. We all know their experience in those kind of games, but I don't think it's going to come to that. I think LSU is going to control the line of scrimmage in this one, and as long as they come to play and don't have a hangover from that Alabama game, I think they roll in this one pretty easy. I think they've got just too much talent for Arkansas right now, so give me LSU in that game. Locally, Tulane goes up to West Point, New York, to play the Army Black Knights. And that's going to be probably a very sparsely attended game. Both teams 2-7. Not a lot to be on the line in this game. But I tell you, Army has been competitive more so than Tulane in their losses. I mean, they played Penn State to a 6-point game. They lost by, I think, 3 at Wake Forest. So their 2-7 looks a little better on the resume than Tulane's, who's just coming off a dreadful performance at homecoming, losing 7-3. I know the weather was bad against Connecticut, but you got to muster more than 3 points at homecoming at home. To me, it's a very disappointing season for Tulane. Not so much the record, 2-7. Obviously, you'd like to be better than that, but the way they're playing, I think they've got a big decision to make there. I love Curtis Johnson, but the program is kind of plateaued, and the lack of interest out there is pretty noticeable. And they're going to have to make a decision at some point if they do bring in a new AD, what they're going to do, what direction they're going to go with that football program. So give me the Army Black Knights in that game, -2.5. And then nationally, the big game is on the West Coast this week, Oregon at Stanford. LSU fans should be rooting for Oregon in this one because if Stanford wins, they're going to be difficult to keep out of the college football playoff. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Stanford's going to win this one, but they're 10-point favorites against Oregon, who seems to have righted the ship a little bit. So give me Oregon to cover the 10, but I think Stanford wins the game. Stanford's a very difficult team defensively to move the ball against, and I think Oregon will find that out in the Bay Area. And one other game in the SEC West, I like Auburn at home against Georgia. I'm picking this one strictly on the strength of the SEC West. Both Georgia and Auburn, very disappointing season so far. But Georgia hasn't played but one game against anybody in the SEC West, and they got routed in that game against Alabama. And I just think the West is so much more superior right now than the East. I like Auburn in that game of disappointing teams in the SEC. Okay, on to the NFL. Saints go up to Washington, D.C. Actually, more accurately, they go up to Landover, Maryland to play the Washington Redskins. And the Saints are 1.5-point favorites in this one. Somewhat surprising since the Saints have only won one game on the road all year. And Washington, conversely, has only lost one home game all year. That was their opener against Miami. They're a difficult team to play up there, so it's surprising that the Saints are favored in this one. I like the Saints. I think that they have more talent right now. They're certainly superior quarterback, but it wouldn't shock me at all to see Washington win this game. Washington also is a very difficult team to read, but I like the Saints. I just think right now they have to get this one after this disappointing performance against Tennessee, and I think they'll bounce back. And in the NFL at large, I like two very good teams that are coming off losses. The Denver Broncos, their first loss of the year in Indianapolis, kind of laid an egg up there. They get it home, and they will get well quickly against the Kansas City Chiefs. They're 5.5-point favorites. I like them to roll in that game. And also the Green Bay Packers have lost back-to-back games. Very frustrating right now on offense. They've gone to James Stark in the backfield over Eddie Lacy. They get the Lions, and they will get well quickly. As they say in Las Vegas, lay the lumber. They're 12-point favorites against the Lions. It won't be that close. All right, that's it for this weekend's Dunk Shot. I appreciate you joining me, and everybody have a great weekend, and I'll see you back here at NOLA.com.